Hello and good evening, everyone. How are you doing on this marvelous Monday? I am so glad that you are joining me for the first episode of the Girl You Better podcast for this 2023 year.
Yes.
And as everybody begins to come on and tune in, I just want everybody right now just to take a deep breath, hold it, and just release. The Lord has given you another day, and the day is almost over. And if the Lord says the same, He will give you another one in the morning. But make sure that you share this out. I'll give everybody just a couple of seconds to join.
Oh, yes. Thank you. You don't see it on Facebook? Okay. Let me see if I can see it on Facebook.
You can see it?
I'm not sure. I don't. Let's see how we're doing. It hasn't come up yet. No notifications yet. No. I don't see any notifications.
Okay. Let's find out what's going on here.
There's always some technical difficulties, but we can most definitely
Overcome them.
we can overcome them. Let me put, because I know people are going to be wondering, so let me just tell us a few technical difficulties. We're going to join soon.
Can you see what I see? It says that looks like this broadcast is deleted on Facebook. Try creating a new broadcast or just remove this destination from the broadcast, then re-add it. Okay.
So it is doing something with us.
Okay, I'll remove it and then I'll re-add it.
I'm gonna tag you, Keith. I'm gonna tag you so people that
Okay, and we are live now on Facebook.
okay, we're live. There we go. It should have just been live for everybody. You see it? Did you get a notification? So let's see, because I just got the notification. I'm gonna go to it. It should have just.
Yes, we're on.
I'm gonna go to it. Okay, let me share it with everyone.
Yes, we're on.
Okay, everyone. We're having some technical difficulties. I think we're good.
Yes, we are
On my
good.
page. Okay, everyone. We're having some technical difficulties. I think we're good.
Yes, we are
On
good.
my page. Let me go over here with that. Let me go over here.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started.
All
My
right.
name is Coach Ronnie B, and I am the relationship and mastery of self coach. And what that means is that I help people discover tools that they can use for their mind, body, and spirit so that they show up as their highest self every single day of their lives, no matter what life brings to you. And today I have a guest on the show that is perfect, so perfect for this topic. And how we even came together, we're going to even share, we're going to talk about that. But I want to thank you again and apologize for the technical difficulties going on. You know, when something is good about to happen, here come the technical difficulties. But being that this is a new year, a brand new year, I wanted to bring this special guest on here, and I just want to introduce her. Her name is Eldress Tielow-Taneesha Henson, and she's
Mhm.
been married for 24 years. She has 6 kids, all boys. Ooh,
All
you
boys.
got some
Oh,
stories. You got some stories already with
yes,
that.
yes. I can tell you a few.
Yes, you got 11 grandchildren. Wow. You were born
Mhm.
in Kerrville, Texas. You went to elementary school in Austin. You graduated high school in Waco in 1998. You joined the Army. You moved to Dallas. You've been in the Army for 24 years and still serving.
Still serving. That's it. That's correct.
Thank you for your service. But guess what, y'all? That's not it. She is also a master resilience trainer.
Mm-hmm.
She's a certified suicide intervention officer, 22 years calling in the ministry. She's been served for 22 years in the ministry. She's a certified dance fitness instructor. I
Oh
love
yeah.
that because so am I. And that's how we
Mm-hmm.
got
Mm-hmm.
connected.
Mm-hmm.
But she has a special passion for music and art and children and ministry and women's ministry. She's a lover of all sports, especially basketball, where she played overseas.
I did. I did. I played overseas. I did. Another fun fact, right?
Yes, we will
Yeah.
talk. We'll talk about that too. And she loves to laugh. She loves to make people laugh and just love on people wholeheartedly. And some of her life mottos are number one, I love this. Be the change you want to see,
Yeah.
heart posture,
Heart posture.
and then also opportunities to show greatness. Opportunities to show greatness. All right. So let me thank you so much
Oh,
for joining the Girl You Better podcast,
thank
talking
you.
about yes, yes. Thank you so much for being here. Um, One thing I want to ask you before we get started, do you have a word for the year? Was there a word that just spoke to your spirit for the year?
Sheesh.
Come on now.
Ar- Arise.
Okay.
Believe it or not, arise. All a part of why we're here today, right? And what God is doing. Daughter, arise. And I'm beginning to see that come into the fullness of it to where even as late as this weekend, a gentleman came to me, one of my I'm in the military, as you so beautifully gave that introduction. And one of my male soldiers, because it's going out there and they're all interested, right? Because I'm a champion for the Lord. I'm going to always champion the things that He's doing in my life, in our lives.
Hmm.
I had a male soldier come up to me and said, "Sons get risen too. Can sons arise? Sons arise." So,
Mm,
not only do we have daughters arising, but we have sons arising that
wow.
need to be risen from a state of being. But to
Yeah.
answer your question and circle back around it, that word that God has been whispering. 2023, not any resolutions. They have their place, not to knock anything down, but
Mm-hmm.
arise,
Arise.
rise.
That is so beautiful, and he is definitely working in you and through you to make that word truly something that you are going to live out. But not only you, you are going to help people live that out.
Yeah.
My word is execute.
Mm,
So execute this year for me, just being so intentional about every single thing and just making sure that
yeah.
whatever is given to me, I want to be obedient. And we talked about that.
We've been talking about it.
I want to be obedient and I just want to execute in excellence
Yes.
wherever I'm at, whatever I do.
Mm. That's a word, sis. That's a word. That's a
Yes,
word.
yes. So anyway, okay, let's talk first. We'll talk about your background and everything, but first, I want to talk about this conference that is coming up
Yeah.
on January 21st at 3 p.m. Can you tell us how this theme um came about? But not only that, I want I'll ask you a little bit later about there's pain in my purpose. That is so deep.
Mm-hmm.
That is so deep, and it's so true for many of us. But some of us still haven't found what the purpose is or what the purpose was in the pain that has been endured. So,
Sheesh. Yeah.
so anyway, go ahead and let's talk about this beautiful conference that's coming up.
Yeah, man, God is working some things. And He's taking us higher and higher from grace to glory to glory. Starting out just this whole theme, daughter arise, came about, and I think God has been churning on me on for years, and it was just made. Sometimes God has to get He had to get me to a place to where I could only hear Him. Um,
Hmm.
and I think he had been speaking, but I wasn't getting any clarity with all the distractions, and we go through that. But
Yeah.
it was clear as day. I was traveling um, for work for the military, and I was traveling to work, and I had a group of soldiers who were having some painful moments in life, having
Hmm.
some painful moments, and it was just coming from one side to the other. And don't think that for once, just because other people experience pain, that means yours suddenly go away. Um,
Hmm.
but God was using other people's pain and even my pain to create and tell a story. And I got to this place, to an office building that I was working out of, and a gentleman, once again, um, different gentleman, he came outside. I was locked out the building, and I was trying to get back in and get on my computer and do some work. And I called him and I said, "Hey, I need to get into the building to use the office space." And he had left. He said I have to circle back around. Hispanic guy, and he came back, let me in, and he asked me. It was just out of the blue, um, nothing coached, nothing rehearsed. Out of the blue, he asked me, "Do you know?" He said, "Sergeant, do you know what Talitha Kumi means?" Out of the blue, out of the blue. And I looked, I stopped. It's like everything in me just stood up. Every morsel, every fiber of hair, everything
Hmm.
stopped, and it was just like God was doing a download. And I stopped, and I basically asked him in so many words, "Yeah, what do you what do you know about Talitha Kumi?" And he said, "Daughter, arise." And it was just as simple. And it was like in passing, he was coming in to let me in the building. Um, I've been locked out, was a little frustrated.
Yeah.
And even in that small moment of him asking me that one question, wherever it came, well, it came from the good Lord, but him just saying, "Do you know what Talitha Kumi means?" And that started a whole download dump truck of what God had foreseen. And this was several months ago, that happened. And once God used that young man to trigger those few words, Talitha Kumi,
Hmm.
daughter, arise. I went into the building. I could hardly even work. Um, because God was just, I was trying to keep up. I was trying to keep up with whatever God, with everything that God was putting in me and speaking to me.
Yeah.
Um, and that's how Daughter Arise happened. The latter part of that, that's the overall conference theme that we'll have year after year, right? Daughter Arise. But the topic for this year, there's purpose to my pain,
Yeah.
um, just came about through life experiences and God saying, "Hey, there's a need for the body of women to understand that although they may be in a dark state, and go through so much pain from many different avenues, many different experiences, that I want them to know that there's a purpose to it, um, and sometimes it's not even a purpose for ourselves."
Yeah.
Sometimes we go through pain and it's not even about me. The
Yes.
pain I endure is for somebody else to capitalize. So
Mm.
and that's what God wanted to for the body of women in this season to know, and that's, I'll say that's the tip of the iceberg of how this came to be.
You know, when you told when first of all, when you asked me to be a part of this conference, and I that morning, I had told you that morning, I was driving to work, doing my usual prayer devotion, getting prepared for the day.
Yeah,
Um, I had said, Lord, just go ahead and just use me. I'm your vessel. Wherever you want me to be, wherever you want me to be,
oh my,
to share a word, just let that happen. I'm open. I'm available. I'm yours, God. You called that afternoon. You called that afternoon, and I
yeah,
said, Lord, I'm gonna be obedient. Be- you work fast, and I'm gonna be obedient. But what's so special about this conference,
yeah,
and without not giving away just everything, but this is something that is going to speak to the generations of women. Can you speak to how you have
generations.
how you have this set up?
Yeah, this is it's always, I think we have to get to a point to where we're getting to a point just worldwide, just not here, just not
Hmm.
from my little part of what God is doing, but to where we have to understand that it's just not about the seasoned people, the older, seasoned saints. It's just not about the churched people. It's just not about us middle-aged adults. It's not just about. We have to remember that there is a space, right? There's a
Yep.
space for every generation. I think we learned a lot about that through COVID, through through this season of COVID, that just because we have a 15-year-old kid, a 20-year-old young lady, a 30-year-old, 40-year-old, up until 70, our older adults, that everybody has a story to tell.
Yeah.
They have a story to tell, and we would be remiss if we didn't include, from my perspective
Hmm.
as a teenager, because
Hmm.
sometimes I think coming up, even when I was growing up, and not because anyone meant any harm, but because it was just a lack of knowledge, right?
Right.
That we were told as kids, stay in the kid's place. And I think the way that where God is moving this thing is, a kid's place is where they have to grow into. And so the experiences that they need to be around it to see, you know what, mama had some pain. We were too busy hiding it. It was too busy being hid
Yeah.
from me, from you, from a
Hmm.
certain generation when we were younger, and told stay in the kid's place. I don't want them to know. It's certain things that, yes, we should be shielding our children and the upcoming generation from. But to speak on the generations that need to tell their story so that it can bring along other generations, because there's some generations that I'm not going to be able to relate to, and I
Yeah.
think that is the key that we have to learn today. But if I take this 23-year-old young lady, if I take this 15-year-old girl who's gone through some pain, thinking not strange that our adolescents, our teenagers, our children that are
Yeah.
going to school facing things that we've never had to face before, having fears that
Yeah.
we've never had before, that they don't have a story to tell to say, from my perspective, there's still purpose to my pain. So this women's conference is specifically and intentionally designed so we can hear from God, from their stories and experiences, the perspective of, I'm a young adult, I'm just now getting through with high school. I'm just now out of college. Maybe I'm untouched. Maybe I haven't been to school, but I can relate to these young ladies that maybe you're remiss, you're omitting because you don't know that story. You don't know the side of the house. So it's intentionally done that way to
Mhm.
where I'm gonna tell my story, my perspective on being purpose as a young adult, traveling this journey to say I might not can figure out right now why I went through all that stuff that I
Yeah.
had to go through, all the things I had to endure then. But on this side of it, I can go back and say, I'm 22, but back then I had a struggle, and now I see the purpose behind that struggle. Same thing with our middle age. Myself, for example, we're in our 40s, and we've endured some things we still don't understand, right?
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
the seasoned saints that have been on this journey a long time that we look to, and they can tell us some things from their perspective, and they're
Mhm.
still trying to figure some things out. Think it not strange that um, people that's been walking this earth a long time are still trying to figure it out, but they still have a story to tell from every generation. I've even got calls um, and text messages saying, "Hey, is it okay for me to bring my daughter? Is it okay to bring my
Of
8-year old? Is it
of
okay for me to
course.
bring my 6-year old?" And I said, hey, if you are a woman and you are young girls, yes, bring them because they're not going to learn. We're not,
Yes.
they have to be taught and they have to see it. They have to be exposed to it. Exposure is so important in the, not only in life, but in the body of Christ, because we shelter our children so much to where once they do get out there, they have a false sense of the world. They have a false
Mhm.
sense of, yeah, everything in church was great. Um, but then they have a false sense of the pain that comes with life because we're sheltering them. So yes, bring them. Bring your girls, bring your young ladies, young at heart. It's meant for everybody on purpose.
Absolutely. It is meant for the aunties. It is meant for grandma.
Yes.
This is a female family affair. This is a grab your bestie, grab your girlfriend,
Yes, absolutely.
let's go and experience this. Because like you said, and this is something that I was discussing recently
Hmm.
with my husband, because generations can walk around with a certain ignorance by default because of what we are not slowing down and taking the time to
Mm,
share, to talk, to hear
hmm.
from one another.
Yeah.
And especially what you were just talking about young people experiencing things. Being a coach, and some of the clients that I assist that are teenagers, that are young people, they are dealing with some things that I never even had to deal
Yeah.
with. It's like you go home to that, you deal with
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and there's a pain, but there's also
Mm,
there's a pain, but if you're not careful, there's also an anger
yeah. Oh my
that
God.
that can develop with that pain. And so part of this conference, I
Yeah.
would say, is that let's let's not be angry. Let's not carry anger with
From our
with
pain.
what we have experienced.
Yes. Oh
Like
my God.
ooh, the all the disappointments, all the hurt,
Mm-hmm.
all the failure,
Yeah.
um, all the uh, if you've been lied, if you've been cheated on, if you've been mistreated,
Mm-hmm.
abused, like anything. If I dare to say, even if somebody, robbed you
Yeah.
of every cent that you had,
Yes.
um, there's always purpose
There's,
in your pain, because there's always a lesson connected to it. Whether or not we wanted to learn that lesson,
yeah.
our journey is cut out for us. We all have these individual journeys that we're all walking
Yes.
on,
Yes.
but the bridge is our mouth. The bridge is
Mm-hmm.
us
Mm-hmm.
talking and telling each other what we have experienced. So maybe we can avoid that, or maybe we can help somebody, or maybe
Yeah.
we can help find solutions. Sometimes you just need a sister to hug on you.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just want to be heard.
Oh my.
Sometimes you just need to feel seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. And
so with that, I I love how this is just gonna hit 3 generations.
yeah.
This is spectacular.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Each one for transparency, because we have to learn to be transparent. The
Mm,
days of hiding it and the fear of being judged. Yeah, it's a whole. It's time to be open, be transparent,
yeah.
and this is what it is. I am who I am, and I'm striving for perfection. Right? I'm not going to be perfect, but I will have purpose.
Hmm.
Um, there's a purpose to our pain.
All right. Now let's move to um I want to ask you this. If you would care to share a moment in your life, or maybe even recently, where you had a daughter arise moment. You heard daughter arise. You heard Tielow-Taneesha rise, arise, arise, excuse me, arise. Not just
Okay.
rise,
Okay.
arise. I think it's something
Oh my
about that word arise instead of
God.
just rise, arise.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Mm. I'll say this. I'm gonna preface this with saying, ever since God um put daughter arise, there's purpose to my pain. This together,
Mm-hmm.
I've been having daughter arise moments. Let me say that first.
Oh,
But to be just like I spoke, ooh, God, you so okay. You got a sense of humor, Lord. All right, but to be very transparent,
mm-hmm.
um, my daughter arise moment, a daughter arise moment. Um, I'm gonna go back 8 years ago.
Okay.
Very, this may shock the world. I'm prepared for it, right? Um, but here it is, transparency moment. About 8 years ago, um, my husband and I were expecting. I was pregnant. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I I was pregnant. We were expecting twins, actually. Geez, I don't even know too many people that know about this, actually. Um, 8 years ago, it was a really, really dark time for us. Um, we prior to that, we were excited. It was happening. Um, the people who know that they know, and they're probably on this line now, watching live, and the people that don't know are like, "What in the world?" So yeah, just as it's about 8 years ago, and I it was on a Wednesday when it happened. I remember it like it was yesterday, um, and I began to lose those children. Put me in a dark spot. Went to the bathroom, and it was I kept it. We kept it a secret
Yeah.
for a long time, and like I told you, 8 years later, no one no one probably knows about this. Went to the bathroom, and I was having some type of discomfort. Um, you're wearing bigger clothes, you're getting bigger, but you're blaming it on weight, and people really don't know. They think whatever they're thinking. But I went to the bathroom and having some uneasy pains, um, and then blood was everywhere. Um, and I
Mhm.
called my husband. We went to the emergency room, and it was confirmed that we had lost both of them, and he was in a dark place. I was in a dark place. Matter of fact, on this same day, something was going on at our church right here where I'm sitting now.
Mhm.
Something was going on at our church, and he wasn't torn. I knew he wanted to be there with me, and I was just in shambles. It was just he and I, and we were at the hospital emergency room thing, and and in the midst of it, um, of being there and being told what the doctor told us, and I looked at him, and he was holding my hand, or and all the things. We were just kind of in a moment, and I told him, I said, "Go." He had a preaching engagement he needed to be at, and he didn't want to go, and I said, "No, go. I don't, you don't. I don't want to really leave you here by yourself, or these things." And I said, "No." God said, "Go." And it's a certain thing that I think people often miss that, and I don't think people miss it. They just maybe don't realize the sacrifices that you make when you're walking in your ministry, um, on both sides, right? And so, it wasn't even a second thought. Um, but I told he went, and our oldest son um, came. I waited. I was there, and in that moment between the transition of my husband going and reluctantly, I know he was distraught, torn, all the things that you all can imagine.
Yes.
Um, and he came to the church in the transition of that, him leaving, and before our oldest son could get there, I had a moment with God, and I was angry. Or let me not misplace it as anger. I was hurt. I was shattered.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe some feelings of anger, but more so hurt than angry. And my son came and got me in the car, took me home. Mind you, this is on a Wednesday. Um, Something was going on. He got me home that Wednesday night. Finally got home, got me in the bed, had the house to myself, and I laid in the bed, shut every blind. I'm saying this is Wednesday, Thursday. I'm just in a funk, just um, buried
Yeah.
mentally, emotionally. I was buried in darkness, and in a very depressive state, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And that was Wednesday, and it lasted. And it just went. I never moved. I never got up. I never ate. I never did anything. I was torn to pieces. And that Sunday, my husband came in, and I knew he was hurting as well, but he still put on the whole armor of God and muscled through it. And he went to church, and I can't remember if he told me, if he called me. No, he didn't call me. I prayed, and well, I just started talking to God. Can I just be real? It
Yeah.
wasn't as though it wasn't a good Lord of all heavens and earth. It wasn't that. It was just like, I'm about to talk to you about this, and I'm hurt. I'm feeling some type of way. We had a talk. They say have a little talk with Jesus. I had a lot of talk with Jesus. Um,
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
that Sunday morning, um, I had a little talk with Jesus. A lot of talk with Jesus, and I told God these things. I said, God, if I don't get up from here, I'm not gonna make it. And I could feel myself spiraling into this deep dark hole, and something in me, the God in me, quickened me, because I knew if I didn't get up out of my bed of affliction,
Yeah.
you wouldn't be talking to me today. Let's say that, the least. So I had that moment. I knew that if it would succumb me, the
Yeah.
the depth the depth of the depression and the sadness and the hurt that I was going through, that I would succumb to it if I didn't get up from my bed of affliction. That's a thing to be said when it says take up your cross.
Yes.
That's a hard thing to do, um, but it's necessary. And I got
Awesome.
up. Mind you, I'm still in the same thing I had been in for days from the hospital, just whatever, yeah, whatever graphic things and graphic fluids, and I was there. And I got up. I I took a shower. I put on some church clothes. Do you hear me?
Mm.
And I knew if I didn't go to the house, um, and come to church, is what I mean when I say if I didn't go to the house, come to this house of the Lord. Um, and I got ready. I put on my church clothes. I got dressed. Did not feel it. I wasn't feeling it, but I was pressing my way through. And I got to church. And when I tell you, um, not a soul knew
Mm.
what was going on unless they already previously knew that the situation. But I
Yeah.
got to church. um I was blessed beyond measure. I didn't even tell my husband I was coming. I drove myself. Mind you, that was a Wednesday. This happened on a Sunday. I got in
Wow.
my car. I didn't call anybody. I didn't tell him. I didn't say I was on my way. I um i was probably a little bit late, if I remember correctly, 8 years ago. But I got to church. I sat down in my regular space I was at, and my husband lit up. And I don't know, it was just the power of God that moved that service.
Yeah.
Um, moved me, moved him, moved the people. Um, and that was that moment when God told me, "Get out your bed of affliction. You shall live and not die.
Mm.
Daughter, arise." That
Yes.
was one of the vaguest or the biggest moments I can remember. And after church, we were, my husband and I, we were talking, and he said, "You would not believe, I just had got church just before church started." He said, "I pulled our musician to the side, our organist." He told me he pulled her to the side and said, "Hey, pray for me." Um, he said, "I told her that just before I got up into the pulpit, and told her to pray for me. And
Mhm.
not even moments later, you walked through the door." I'm telling you, if God, it was, that was my daughter rise moment. And the healing
Mm.
process began. I will say that the healing process began. Was
Yeah.
it an easy process? No, but in the healing process begins,
Yes.
and the healing process begins. Um, so yeah, that was my daughter rise moment.
Woo.
Yeah, transparency at its best, right?
At its best.
At its,
And
at its best.
thank you so much for sharing
Mm,
your heart on
yeah,
tonight.
that was a tough one. That was a that was pulling strings, but hey, it's transparency, and that's what we want in the body of Christ today.
Yeah.
Is you gotta,
But you just helped somebody.
hey,
Remember, yes. Um, and I want to share, this with everybody.
mm,
Only because I think it's important for people to understand the true power of social media when it's used responsibly.
yeesh. The reach. Come on,
When it's
sis.
used responsibly, you already know what I'm about to
The
say. The
reach,
reach.
sis. I know you like I know you. The
Yeah.
reach.
When I first asked Eldress, Tielow-Taneesha,
Uh,
I said, "Will you come on?" I said, I know we, doing, passing out the text and, doing posts. I said, but will you come on the podcast and talk about this?
mm, mm.
And whoo, y'all wouldn't believe this was out of her comfort zone.
So,
Would you believe that? Would you believe it? I mean, as
uh,
it was out of her comfort zone.
I would
But
tell you no. I was gonna.
I know, you was gonna tell me no. But I said, okay. I said, what? Just think about it and get back to me in a couple of days. But guess what happened within the next couple of days? Well, you can share what happened.
Okay, so out of the blue, yes, Coach Ronnie, you text me, and I don't know what God was doing and how He was doing it. However, comma, you text me, "Hey, I got a favor to ask you. Would you feature on my podcast?" Mind you, I didn't know a thing at all about pod nor the cast. Um, didn't
On
know a
to the
thing. Never
cast.
been on them. Didn't know podcast. That sounds like something. So I'm reading your text, and I'm looking at it, and I was like, uh, how, and this is how God works. He must have. I'm telling you, truly believe God has a sense of humor. And before I could even think to tell you no, my fingers had already typed yes. And when my fingers had already said absolutely, um, that very word. And I looked at it, and before I could retract and be like, "But hold on a minute, we need to talk about this." He was like, "Okay," and and it happened, and from there we talked on the phone, and I was like, I go into this whole, oh my God, what did I just do? Listen, we're gonna have to have lunch, sit down. I don't, what did I just say? This is not me. I would much rather play the background and love on people. um and maybe within a 24-hour period from
Hmm.
you sowing that seed, I got another call within 24 hours from the contact was made to feature me on another podcast, and that one I just had. So you were the first one to push that out there, but then within a small window, that's when Elder Sheila Black, I made contact with her and her team, and they asked me to be on their podcast. It was just so, the power of God is real, and what He's doing, it doesn't take all day. It's just amazing, and that's what happened. Yeah.
All you have to do is say is
I,
yes.
yeah.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah.
And so when I went to go listen to that interview, which was awesome, it was so great.
Oh
And
man.
I told her, I said, hey, I said, I said, when I listened to it this morning, it was 855 views. She said, huh? Because she didn't want to go listen to herself. She didn't want to go look at herself.
I will not ever. And I'm never, when this is over, I'm not looking at this either.
Ooh,
Just kidding.
hey,
But
that's
you're right. You're absolutely right. I had no idea how
at,
many people have viewed.
yeah. So at that time, but I told her, I said, well, see, I said, it's the reach, it's the seed that is being planted. You don't know who you helped. You don't know what just what just happened within somebody's heart, within somebody's mind.
Oh my
You
God.
don't you don't know. Even the story that you told about you being a child and you sneaking to be baptized,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Y'all can go and listen to the, or if you want to sum it up real quick and tell how you snuck
I
and got
did.
baptized.
Did. I was in elementary school, and I was the only person in my household going to church at the time. And my parents, my siblings, all of us were there, and I was the only one going to church. I just had a love for God at an early age, and I know that sounds cheesy, y'all, but it's the, I don't know. It was, I always saw something when I would look in the mirror at myself, past myself. And I didn't understand it as a young girl, but I understand it today. But to kind of give you a snippet of that, what you're speaking of is I went to church, and the church was some blocks away, and I would walk, I would sneak, I would literally, and it was a honky tonk, give me gas in my Ford, keep me trucking for the Lord. Literally, that's what they would sing, type of cowboy church. And I would literally sneak out of my house, knowing when I got home that day I would be in trouble. But I would sneak out my house to go to church. And one Sunday I heard about baptized. I was infatuated with, life got to be better than this. I want what those people have, and if they say that's how I get to Jesus, that's how I get to God, I you might as well dunk me in that water. It was some paperwork that the church, because mind you, I'm a minor, I'm a little kid going to church on my own. Um, no parent, no anything, just this little chocolate girl in this cowboy church. Um, and they said, hey, well, we need parental consent. And I forged my mother's name. um, I forged my mother's name. I knew on Saturdays, my mother would press my hair, that hot comb. She would press our hair. And I didn't have sense enough. See, when you're young, you don't have sense enough to work out all the minor details. I
Mhm.
didn't think about all of that. But she had pressed my hair on Saturdays. Every Saturday, we get our hair pressed. But I knew I was sneaking out. I was going to forge that documentation, and I was going to get baptized that Sunday. And I did it. I didn't have sense enough. I went to church, had a good time, got baptized. I just knew that at any time I was on the stairway to heaven, and I was feeling great about it. I walked back home, got back home. My hair obviously drenched and wet and shriveled up and all curly. And I didn't have sense enough to know that, fool, you think she's not gonna know that this hair is wet and something didn't happen. And
Oh
I was
my God.
prepared to get the punishment I was gonna get anyway for sneaking out. And I think by that time my mom had been like, you know what, she gonna keep doing this. But sneaking out for church. But this Sunday I came back with a wet head after she done spent all that time, pressing her hair in. When I tell you,
Mm.
I got home with that wet head, and I most definitely got in trouble. I was like, I got baptized and spanked all in the same in the same day, all in the same day. But yeah, that's well, she might try to snap on me. You're gonna try to whip me today. Like, you stop telling people that story. But Mom, I'm sorry, but that's the truth. You gave me a whooping. Um, yeah, it was all in love. Yeah, that's just, yeah, and that's the story of that.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that story. I would quickly revisiting what the transparency of the story that you told of your daughter Arise moment.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to where you are a suicide prevention officer as well as a master resiliency
Mm-hmm.
trainer.
Mm-hmm.
Can
Yeah.
you tell us and can you tell the people in the back
Yeah.
who need who need to hear this about suicide prevention, about resiliency? Why is it important for us to have resiliency in this life? And
Mm.
how is that tied to suicide prevention?
Oh my. First and foremost, that we can start with suicide intervention. It's on the rise. I just have to be really blunt and say it. It's the rate of suicides. It's so high.
Yeah.
Um, to where it has automatically drawn attention to um to the world,
Yeah.
shocking the world. It's and its effects. That's what I can say. The effects of suicide goes far beyond that person. It reaches the family. It's impacting the hurt goes so deep. So the suicide intervention portion is to be able to, number one, first and foremost, is to destigmatize. Is that a fair word to say? Yeah, to
Mhm.
destigmatize
Yeah.
suicide. I think it's people have such a negative view or judgmental behavior on the circumstances of suicide to where people won't talk about it.
Yeah.
Especially someone that's in the mindset of suicide ideations, for the lack of a better word, that
Mhm.
become because they don't, it's either judged or they don't know what to do and they don't know what to call it, and it just has a negative view. So it has a stigma, and we have to figure out, not figure out, but we have to start destigmatizing suicide.
Yeah.
um, and then with suicide we have to know that there's three parts um, to suicide intervention. There's an ask part, and I think that is the most hardest things to do.
Mhm.
If you have an inkling of an idea that someone has ideations, thoughts, um, or even have the risks and the warning signs of wanting to commit suicide, we don't want to ask.
Right.
But those three pillars or three ways to intervene is to ask, care, and then escort. Um, with asking, we sometimes want to beat around it. Hey, are you okay? And we have to learn how to, in love, right? We have to
Mhm.
learn how to be very direct with it. Are you thinking about killing yourself? We just have to ask. Um, and that's, I think that's the hardest part for people to come to grips with, is how do I ask somebody if they are wanting to commit suicide? And you know how you do it? You just ask them, because that's a life, right? We don't have, there's really no time
Mhm.
to figure it out or try to be gentle about it. Because if you're thinking that and that person is having a warning sign, um, due to some risk factors, We just need to ask. And from that ask, we go to once you've actually successfully asked and we're going forward, then there's a care part of that where we have to be show concern and express empathy and um, set accurate expectations.
Yeah.
Some people go into the point of saying, "Hey, everything's going to be okay, and you're going to do this." No, we have to remember
No.
in that care phase of um, intervening, because we're not counselors. Let's when it's that intervening part of it, we can't get in the part of I'm going to keep you from killing yourself. I'm going to be a counselor, and no, we just need to keep them safe
Yeah.
until we can get them the proper help that they need. Right.
Yeah.
So we have ask, we have care, which involves concern, expressing empathy, and setting accurate expectations. And from there, once you go through that ask and care phase, then our job is to care for that person the way I just explained until we can, and then escorting them to the proper help that they need and resources that they need to get help, and not leaving that person until we can safely hand them off to the proper people. And then being able to identify two things that we often misjudge is there's a difference between risk factors and warning signs, and being able to identify risk factors versus
Mhm.
a warning sign. um, Risk factors can be, and I kind of got it because I knew we were going to kind of talk about this just based off of some of the stuff that you'd asked me about my bio is but really pay attention to this, guys. Our risk factors are going to be things like a risk factor may be prior suicide attempts. That's a risk
Mhm.
factor, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to a warning sign. Warning signs are, hey, this is hot. This person is, hey, we need to move now, right? But risk factors are those things that develop. Is there a family history of suicide? Does this person have access to lethal weapons? Is there any drug and alcohol misuse? Does that person feel like there's limited or no support? Um, do they have any financial stresses, past traumas, relationship difficulties, isolating behavior,
Yeah.
behavioral health issues? Those are all risk factors, factors that say you're at risk for taking it to warning signs of them wanting to commit, someone wanting to commit suicide. Those are risk factors. They're saying, okay, let me start watching, let me kind of get into that care mode of asking open-ended questions so I can see
Mm-hmm.
who you are and show you that I have empathy and I'm concerned, and I'm expressing that empathy. Um, and then if and when you get to those warning signs, being able to identify the warning signs of, maybe a warning sign is how they may be having sleep disturbances. They just not sleeping sleeping well at all. Um, and knowing someone's character is about knowing people. So if someone is always bubbly, always up, always going, and then all of a sudden in a 24-hour period they're sleeping 20 hours out of the day, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Um, their isolation, just knowing that if there's an increased level of isolation, um, now that we're in a world of social media,
Yeah.
um, are there concerned text messages, posts, emails that's like, they so and so, I'm watching posts and seeing some of the texts that they're writing, and some of the things that they're putting in emails and they're putting on Facebook and putting on Instagram and putting on some concerning text message and posts that they may use. I think you hit about it before about increased anger. That's a warning sign. Increased anger. That's a warning sign. Increased drug and alcohol abuse um, is a warning sign. The feeling of being hopeless or helpless. And then another big one is, and I think we all kind of misinterpret it, is when people start giving things away.
Oh yeah.
People start giving things away. Those are all warning signs. So start looking at, if I had anything to say about suicide intervention, it would be number one, destigmatize suicide. Um, hey, it's not okay. It's not, you don't, I'm not judging you. We're not going to allow people to judge it and make it seem like it's just this negative view and they're judging your behavior. But we're going to ask, care, and escort. But the other two things that I would say is to make sure that you pay attention to risk factors and warning signs. And that's intervention, not to
Yeah.
be a counselor, not to say, I'm going to do it all because I'm the all. No, your job is to ask, care, and get them to the help they need as when you're intervening. And anyone can intervene.
Yeah. It's it's our responsibility.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We just have to know,
And,
hmm and not be
yeah.
afraid. Hmm.
Well, thank you for shedding light on that and for educating us. I couldn't let you go without um talking about that because that's a real thing because there are some daughters that they
Yeah.
didn't they didn't rise.
They didn't rise. They
No.
succumbed to it.
That,
Which
that's
also brings us to the resiliency part of it. I'm sorry, I forgot
yes,
to
yes.
ask that. Resiliency, and I like to put it like this. And when I went all the training that we have to do, um, the best way I can explain resilience and the importance of it is life is going to happen to everybody. Um, it's going to happen. The bad is going to happen. It's just how we are able to cope with it and deal with it, right? So what being resilient and resiliency is basically taking whether you're an egg or a tennis ball, right? And no matter what, you're gonna throw that tennis ball. Life is gonna be a force to where it's literally throwing you down to the ground, and it's gonna make an impact. Are you gonna be the egg that shatters, right? Or
Right.
you're going to be that tennis ball that the harder life throws you down, the harder your situations pound you against that pavement, so to speak. Are you going to be able to bounce back? It's the bounce back that makes resiliency so important. And those and that's what we have to remember is to be resilient, to hunt the good stuff, to look at the skills that we have on the inside naturally within us to use as coping mechanisms um,
Mhm.
to help us to be resilient. Self-awareness is a big one. Um, Connecting with others, right? Um,
Right.
it's just a lot of core competencies that we most of the time forget about, but the things that we need to use in order to be resilient. So that's what it is, just being able to bounce back, the bounce back that we get. And a lot of people say snatch back. It's a bounce back that we have to experience once life starts happening.
Yeah. It's the bounce back for me.
It's the bounce back. It's the bounce
It's
back. The harder we
absolutely.
get thrown, um, the, how can I use my self awareness to know who I am in spite of my pain? See that purpose, the pain just keeps on coming or
Right.
coming up. How our self regulation. There's some core competencies that we use to help um, our clients. Mental agility is one. Being able to connect with others, um, so we can use those skills that are already within us to help us be more resilient and bounce back.
Yes.
Shatter like an egg. Yeah.
And it's yeah, and it's great to have a support system
Yeah.
as well. So that when your bounce back is not as high, they can say something and you be like,
Oh yeah.
oh, girl, you just reminded me. I am her.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
am that. I can't be that. But what more than anything, um,
Mm,
I'm just gonna say this. Who resides within us? Our faith in God.
yeah. Absolutely.
Knowing that He is who He is, He's always there, He's present, and knowing that anything that we go through,
Yeah.
He sees it,
Yeah.
He hears us.
Oh
And
yeah.
we have to remember whose we are every single day of our lives. We cannot forget. And we have to armor up. I just said that the other day. We have to armor up every single
Hey,
day that we step out the door. Even sometimes whatever's going on in whatever's going on in your household, you
yeah.
still have to be armored up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
but it's 8 o'clock. and I don't want to hold you too much longer. I don't want to hold the audience any longer.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
oh, girl, I have enjoyed talking to you
Likewise, likewise.
so much. And look, everybody, look, there's no excuse why you should not
Oh,
come out at 3 o'clock on Saturday, January the 21st. Look,
yeah.
it's free. Okay, so you don't even have to ask, well, how much is the conference? You don't gotta dig down in your pocketbook,
Register.
like the old school, in your
Come on.
pocketbook.
Come
Just
on.
come.
Yeah.
Just come and bring somebody with you. The registration is streamed across
Okay.
the screen, but you can go to the post. It's on her page, it's on my page. If you want to register, go ahead and do so. And
Yeah.
they're also going to give you a gift of some sort. So, just want to show your appreciation for showing
Yeah.
up. But besides that gift, what you're going to leave with is something
Mhm.
that you can guarantee,
Empowerment.
guarantee.
Empowerment.
It's
Absolutely.
empowerment, and you'll have that for a lifetime. And you cannot put a value on that.
Yes.
You can't. Well, anyway, have a good night, everyone. Thank you
Yes,
so much again.
thank you.
And hopefully we see you on the 21st.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. Good night.
Good night.